Will we do our power rankings now?
I'd say go for it.
Sure, if not, why not? Who are you thinking straight in at number 1? So on the list here, you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen, just for convenience, we have the names of the teams that are left in the Senior Club Championship, and we'll start the list from here where the X and X are.
Well, is there anybody you want to make a case for number 1?
I would say you probably have to go for Ballygunner as number 1, even though they're like, the reason I'd say Ballygunner is because last year they were in their first All-Ireland final at Croke Park, and I would say there was an adjustment for them and the pressure of, can we get over the line? Now they've gotten over the line, I think that will sort of release them to play even better stuff this year. So that's why I'd be going with Ballygunner and number 1.
If Ballygunner play Ballyhale Shamrocks this year, who do you think will win?
I think Ballygunner will win.
Okay, I think Ballyhale.
That's why I put them ahead of them.
I think Ballyhale will win, and I think they're a team on an absolute mission this year. They were the better team in the All-Ireland final last year, despite displaying poor form until that point. They have an absolutely massive point to prove because they feel like they were robbed of a 3 in a row, robbed of an All-Ireland. They look hungrier than ever. They're a much better team than they were last year. They've obviously introduced the likes of Niall Shortall. He was brilliant yesterday, hit 1-2. He's only doing his leaving cert. Killian Corkin came in midfield yesterday, hit 3 points. To me, they're displaying even better form than last year. So I'll argue hard for Ballyhale number 1.
Do you know, the reason that I probably concede ground on this is because of what I said already. The path that Ballygunner have is that bit harder. So that would, I suppose, actually, now that I think about it, I wasn't factoring that in when I just decided to say Ballygunner, but I think Ballyhale are going to have to get number 1 on that basis.
Well, I put you this way, Shane, as well. Like the way you look at it, like Ballygunner could be gone on Sunday at 5 o'clock. Like Ballyhale will. It would take a monumental shock for Ballyhale to be not be still in the competition in a month's time. I put it to you that way. I think they're I personally think they're the better team anyway at the moment, and particularly the fact that, you know, I think they have this massive chip on their shoulder as well. Like, and players who were stale last year, the likes of Colin Fennelly, look like they're absolutely hopping off the ground. So yeah, I'd be happy with Ballyhale number 1. Again, listen, from a Ballygunner point of view, I know Desi Hutchinson said after the county final this year that some people were writing them off and questioning them. So listen, if you want to take this as motivation that we're writing you off, then absolutely no problem whatsoever. But I do think Ballyhale are in a really good position, and as you say, the path to the point of where they meet the Munster champions is a much easier path than for Ballygunner or for Na Piarsaigh.
Okay, I'll let you kind of lead out with the next part of it. Who do you think is number 2? So I'll delete them here on the right as we're going along as well.
Well, obviously Thomas's ran Ballyhale to within an inch of their lives in that semi-final last year. And as John McIntyre said to us on the show last week, that was probably Thomas's best performance ever. So they're at a really high pitch, and that was without Shane Cooney as well. So they're in a really good spot, and it looks like they look like they're a team that have a bit of an axe to grind over the coming months as well. I'd probably still have Na Piarsaigh at 3 though. They're All-Ireland champions more recently, obviously, than Thomas's. Last year, they won in 2020, didn't get a chance to go on when they had a pretty full complement to go on and contest in Munster and All-Ireland. Last year, they were beaten, obviously. Mike Casey was out. Peter Casey was out. There was a couple of more injuries along with that as well. Just looking at that Limerick County final, and you're just thinking that they can hurt you in so many ways. Like the likes of David Dempsey and Adrian Breen, who have not really seen any game time with Limerick in recent years. William Henn up top, Kevin Downs, Peter Casey, Will O'Donoghue midfield, Mike Casey fullback, Carl King cornerback. Like they have some riches. I'd have them probably marginally ahead of Thomas's, I would say. But again, one of them's going to be gone out.
That's the thing, like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's the thing. How can we have, let's say, Na Piarsaigh ahead of St. Thomas's if we know that, if we're to assume that Ballygunner will edge past Na Piarsaigh, which we're not sure of at all. But how can we have both of them ahead of St. Thomas's when we know that Thomas's are guaranteed and all? Sorry, assuming to beat Loughrea, whichever Galway champion comes through. How can we have both Ballygunner and Na Piarsaigh ahead of them?
It's funny, Shane. I think Na Piarsaigh are a marginally better team than Thomas's. But like Thomas, I'd say that Thomas's could be out this Sunday as well. Like they're playing the Galway County final at the weekend too. But you'd imagine Thomas's are not guaranteed, but you'd imagine they're more likely to still be in the championship in a month's time compared to Napier-Street, shall we say. Even if Napier-Street were to get over Ballygunner, they still have a tough Munster final against either the Bards or Ballyea. But I'd be happy, probably happier then in that case to go with Thomas's 3, Napier-Street 4. Because I think it balances it out. I think you're putting a bit of reason and thought into it of who's actually going to be left in a week's time, if you get me.
But if Napier-Street were to meet St. Thomas's, who would you fancy to win the game? Because I think on the basis of teams getting knocked out and so on, we do have to put Thomas's 3rd here if we're going to assume that Ballygunner will beat Napier-Street.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't be assuming Ballygunner would beat Napier-Street either, but just because they're reigning All-Ireland champions, they're showing no signs of any drop-off whatsoever. You would have them as marginal favourites. If Napier-Street played Thomas's, I think Napier-Street would win by a couple of points.
Yeah, I'm kind of on those lines too. But again, that'll be you writing off St. Thomas's again, as you love to do. Who would you put as next? I mean, Ballyhale have the pedigree. Schlockneil have a certain amount of pedigree at this time of the competition. Obviously, this is a new Loughrea team. Kilmacud haven't been to a Leinster final just yet. Mullins, to be fair, have been to a Leinster final. St. Finbarrs, they're only kind of fresh enough in terms of Cork victories. Portaferry, probably not so much. Dunloy, they've been doing really, really well in Antrim, but haven't got too far beyond that. So who would you be looking at for number 5?
Well, I think Schlockneil are favourites to win Ulster again. I definitely had them in the mix around 5. Tell you, I wouldn't have Ballyea too far down either. 5, 6 Ballyea. Yeah.
If Ballyea met Schlockneil tomorrow, who would you put down to win that game?
Oh, that's tough.
I'd be going with Ballyea.
That's tough.
Viewers, get your comments in. Let us know.
I would have Ballyea favourites to beat the Bards at the weekend, and I think they'll rattle whoever they play in the Munster final. Yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy enough with that. A part of it, Shane, as well is that like we haven't probably seen enough of Schlockneil. We've only really seen them, in those All-Ireland semi-finals, and they were good against Ballygunner last year. But we don't have first-hand, visual, evidence of, whether they're better or worse this year maybe than they were last year. They're obviously out of football again, same as last year. So they'll fancy the chance of going on a run. But as we said, around the time of the Antrim County final, Dunloy are a quality side. Yeah. Dunloy will be, fancy the chances of causing what would be viewed as an upset probably outside of Ulster, but that's probably a 60-40 game in Schlockneil's favour. Like Dunloy are very, very close, and there's a quagmire of teams here, Shane, where there's very, very, very small margins, and it's very subjective to who's ahead of who.
Yeah, I like that idea of a quagmire. That's
Glenn Quagmire.
So are you happy enough then with, like, we know that some team is going to do a screenshot of this and say we're writing them off, and obviously we are.
I hope they do it, Shane.
Come on, Thomas and Loughrea, I'm rooting for you. Have to say Schlockneil in 5, they've earned it at this stage. I think they'd beat any of the 4 teams outside the top 4. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by orgaretro.com. Use the promo code OurGame and you'll get 15% off. There's so many brilliant different items you can get there on the site. Also, if you want to keep an eye out on ourstore.ie, it's our store that we've launched there recently. Maybe you want to have this slick little Kerry-esque top. We've also got a few other beauties like this one that has that sort of Mayo vibe as well. You can see the sort of matrix design to the back of that. We've got so many other ones. Look at this Kilkenny one here. That's real retro stuff right there. So you can keep an eye out at that or on that at ourstore.ie. What are you smirking about?
No, I'm just trying to think even of, like, it's the separation between these teams is so small. It's almost like it's we talked about that Champions League style, potentially in the club outside of the county stuff. But,
that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, it would be brilliant. But you're looking at the top 4. If they played each other, that'd be unreal. And I'd say if 5 to 13 played each other regularly, then there is a bit of a gap between the top 4 and the rest. But the gap between the rest is so small, if you get me. Like you throw Ballyea, Schlockneil, Kilmacud, Mullins's, Finbarrs, Dunloy into the mix there. Like you're talking about, as Paddy O'Shea used to say, a grain of rice will tip the scales. You know, there's no margin between, very, very little margin between any of them. I think realistically, I'd nearly start at the very bottom and nearly work our way back up, maybe even. And with due respect to them, I would have Portaferry down at the bottom, probably in 13th. They're playing, who are they playing? They're playing Slaughtneil, Slaughtneil are playing Dunloy, aren't they, this weekend? And the winners play Portaferry in the final. But I'd probably have them down at the bottom. As regards who's going to be 7th, Loughrea will definitely fancy their chances of causing...
By the way, it's Portaferry against Slaughtneil and the winner plays Dunloy, yeah?
Okay, yeah. That makes it even more difficult, I would say, from a Portaferry point of view.
Surely you'd have to, like, I actually think it's not that I think that Portaferry are a better team than Naas, but I just think the chances of Portaferry winning against Slaughtneil are slightly higher than Naas beating Ballyhale. So it's not that I necessarily think that Portaferry would beat Naas. I mean, we don't really get to see Portaferry matches, but I think that just the chances of Naas beating Ballyhale are so low that I would probably have them 11th here.
Yeah, okay. They're very, very minuscule odds. Like, I think Castleingagham were 11-1 yesterday. I don't know what Naas would be. It'd probably be 8 or 9-1, I'd say, to beat Ballyhale. And it would take a monumental effort to get within 5 or 6, you'd imagine, of a Ballyhale side who are firing on all cylinders at the moment.
So for the 9th team, we've got a mini table of 5 teams left here. Now, who's going in next? Have I left us short? I have.
Yeah, Naas will have to be 13th, and Portaferry will have to be 12th, and then we'll fill them in there. Whether we have enough room on the screen or not is another story.
Hey, I'll sort it. Don't you worry.
7th team. See, Mullins are seasoned enough at provincial level. Loughrea are in a county final, and the odds would suggest that they're going to be gone after this weekend. They obviously won't think that, and I do think they'll put it up to Thomas's. Kilmacud are in a semi-final. That's a 50-50 game, would you say, between Mullins and Croke?
Big time.
Would you have Crokes as marginal favourites, though, if push came to shove and you had to?
Yeah, I think so. I think even like the way they got through last year and the way they were beaten by Clock and how they've responded this year, and even the scare that they had against Nafina late on, just that performance the other day showed a lot of composure and a team that probably believes it can adapt it better in the provincial championship. So are we agreed that Loughrea are going to have to be 11th here?
Realistically, Shane, they probably are. It's their first county final. Is it their first county final in a decade as well? They have.
Yeah.
Put the little star beside Loughrea, will you? That means that they can progress an awful lot. That's what they do. And I love it. There's potential for serious improvement there. I'd have Kilmacud at 7, Shane. Mullins is Finbars. I'd probably have Kilmacud, Mullins is Finbars.
Yeah, it looks like we're on the same wavelength there. Keep the comments coming in. Is there any comments coming in there telling us what heat it's where?
Cullen's Blood just says, "Come on, the Ulster clubs." So, like, I think Dunloy are a fine side, I have to say, and I think they'll give Slaughtneil plenty to think about when they play them more than likely. But they do have to still go and prove it. Porter just says Ballyhale have the greatest in TJ, and Cullen's Blood said TJ is a shrewd operator, but all good things come to an end. I think the great man's timing belt is starting to go. Whoa, big predictions there. It is a fine line between being at the top of your game and at his age. I think he's 35 later on this month as well. But I think Pat Hoban is smart, even giving him a break and refreshing him up a small bit as well. Another comment in here, Jay Kwan saying Sim Finbars have to be ahead of Mullins's Cork v Carlow. First time champions in Cork for first time in a long time. Mullins is laid it down. I'll put it this way: would Finbars get as close to Ballyhale as Mullins did in the Leinster final a couple of years ago? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, look, I think I'm pretty happy with it. I'll bring it up just once more here, and people, whether you're watching the show live or later on, get your comments in and let us know. So we've gone with Ballyhale at number 1, Ballygunner, St. Thomas's, Napearshig, Ballyer, Slaughtneil, Kilmacud, St. Mullins, St. Finbars, Dunloy, Loughrea with an asterisk, as in they'll improve in years to come, Portaferry and Naas. It's a pretty tasty lineup, and like we were saying, I'd love to see a Champions League style groups with those teams involved and see how they go. Like, I want to see Ballyhale, Ballygunner. I want to see Napearshig, Ballyhale, Napearshig, Ballygunner. I want to see Thomas's against the three of those teams, not to mention a few of the others as well. It is such a shame that we might never see some of these matchups ever just because of the quirks of the club calendar.
Well, I tell you what's a shame as well, Shane. Like, I want to see Ballyhale against Ballygunner, but I also want to see Ballyhale against Napirsig. And we only have the chance of seeing one of them this year, and we mightn't see any of them. Like, someone's going to win between Ballygunner and Napirsig at the weekend, and there'll be favourites to win the Munster final, but they're not necessarily guaranteed to get through. I just think we have an absolute game for the ages in store on Sunday. I just hope it lives up to even half the billing. And then for the reason that I want to see Ballyhale meeting Ballygunner again, I'd love to see them meeting in an All-Ireland semi-final after everything that happened in February and the pain of that for Ballyhale and the joy of that for Ballygunner. And if Ballygunner play Ballyhale again, will that release valve from the All-Ireland final and getting over the line, will that be released? Will that see them be a more seasoned team in a big game like that? I think it's going to be fascinating, but there's some classic games to be played out over the next couple of months.